When Taehyung walks off stage, refusing to perform with Jungkook, secrets unravel behind the spotlight: jealousy, betrayal, and a truth no one expected. "Get him off the stage now!" The director's voice cracked like a whip through the earpiece, slicing the tension that had already choked the air in the stadium. Taehyung stood motionless under the blinding white spotlight, jaw clenched, mic lowered. Across from him, Jungkook froze mid-step, the music still pounding, the choreography unraveling like thread caught on a nail. The crowd didn't know yet. They were screaming, hands raised, unaware of the storm brewing in real time before their eyes. Taehyung turned his back. It wasn't part of the act. Behind the stage, managers scrambled. Staff whispered like wildfire. The performance was supposed to be the long-awaited reunion, the 7-on-1 stage again, after years of solo pursuits, silence, and speculation. Instead, it was crumbling, and at the center of it stood two of the most beloved idols in the world. No longer aligned, no longer smiling. The moment Taehyung stepped into the wings, his expression was ice. His chest rose and fell with a quiet fury, his hands balled into fists. Jungkook followed seconds later, confusion and disbelief battling in his wide eyes. "Hyung, what the hell was that?" he asked, his voice sharp but shaken. "You should ask yourself that." Taehyung spat, his words laced with something more dangerous than anger betrayal, and then he walked away. The room exploded behind them. Staff trying to fix the show, PR teams already drafting statements, fans screaming across social platforms before the music even stopped. It had begun. 12 hours earlier, Seoul glittered under a pale morning haze, a city always on the brink of something. Taehyung sat in the back seat of a tinted black van, his fingers drumming absently against his knee. The city passed in a blur. His stylists were silent, sensing his mood. He'd barely slept, and the espresso in his hand did nothing to thaw the cold knot in his stomach. He was returning to the stage, but not just any stage. This was the performance, the one the world had been waiting for, the one fans called the Last Symphony, a symbolic end to a legacy that had shaped a generation. BTS, reunited for one final live show. Except something was off. For weeks, Taehyung had felt at a growing distance, not just with Jungkook, but with all of them. They laughed, yes. They reminisced, but something dark lingered in the spaces between sentences, in glances that darted too quickly away. And there was that moment in rehearsal 2 nights ago, when Jungkook had stayed late, alone, when Taehyung had walked in and found the staff whispering. He never asked. Not yet, but he saw how they looked at Jungkook, the way the spotlight seemed to follow him even off stage. Backstage now, the tension was unbearable. Namjoon tried to mediate. "Whatever's going on between you two, figure it out before we go out there again. This isn't just about us, it's the fans, the legacy, everything." Taehyung said nothing. His gaze was locked on the monitor showing the stage. A replay of their aborted performance ran silently, his figure turning away. Jungkook's frozen face. Legacy. It was always about the legacy, but no one asked about the truth. Later, as the hall emptied and the crew began tearing down what was meant to be a historical night, Taehyung found himself alone in the dressing room. His reflection stared back at him from the mirror, exhausted and splintered. There was a letter in his coat pocket, unopened, delivered anonymously a week ago. He hadn't dared to read it until now. His fingers trembled as he unfolded it. The handwriting was familiar, painfully so. If he knew what you did, would he still call you Hyung? It wasn't signed. His heartbeat kicked up like thunder. Memories surged like waves crashing against his ribs. Late-night conversations, promises made under dim studio lights, something they had both buried long ago. His phone buzzed. Jungkook? He didn't answer. Because deep inside, Taehyung already knew. The stage wasn't big enough for both of them anymore. Not with the truth standing between them like a shadow that could no longer be ignored. And the truth was coming faster than either of them was ready for. "You think you're the only one who bled for this group?" Jungkook's voice echoed through the empty hallway like a shot. He had followed Taehyung, his fists clenched, the tension between them now a live wire threatening to snap. Taehyung stopped, but didn't turn around. "I bled, Jungkook, but you sold the wound." That made Jungkook flinch. Just for a second, but Taehyung saw it. The younger man stormed forward, grabbing Taehyung's shoulder and forcing him to face him. "Say what you really mean." Jungkook demanded. You want to accuse me of something, then do it to my face, Hyung. Taehyung's eyes locked with his. Cold, burning. You stole my song. Silence. Pure. Deafening. Time seemed to lurch sideways. Jungkook's mouth opened, then shut again. That's not... You stood there in front of the cameras, in front of the fans, and said you wrote it that it came from your soul. You forgot to mention it came from my hard drive first. It wasn't like that. Taehyung let out a bitter laugh. Of course it wasn't. It never is. Not when it's you. He stepped back, the fury under his skin crackling like lightning. I stayed quiet when you went solo first. I smiled through the interviews. I cheered you on. But you... His voice cracked, just slightly. You didn't just leave me behind. You buried me. Jungkook looked away, jaw tight, veins showing in his neck. You think I planned this? You think I wanted to be the face of everything while you disappeared into silence? You loved it, Taehyung snapped. You always wanted to be the favorite. You think I'm the favorite? Jungkook's voice rose now, raw. Do you know what it's like to have every goddamn move you make dissected, worshipped, or hated? To not know who loves you or for the brand they built around you? I didn't ask for this crown, Hyung. I just never had the luxury to take it off. Taehyung's expression darkened. And now you wear mine. They stared at each other. Years of silence and swallowed bitterness boiling over in that narrow corridor where once, not long ago, they used to laugh until their ribs ached. The door behind them creaked open. Namjoon stepped in, his face pale, phone in hand. You two need to shut up and listen. Neither moved. I said listen, he barked. He tossed the phone on the table between them. The screen showed a tabloid leak already circulating online. BTS's reunion implodes. On-stage Taehyung walks off after Jungkook betrayal. Underneath, a grainy backstage photo. Taehyung mid-yell. Jungkook's stunned face. Headlines, hashtags, and fire emojis filling the comments. They're spinning it already, Namjoon said. They're calling it a feud. Some are even saying the group was never really close, that it was always a lie. Jungkook rubbed his temple, suddenly exhausted. They've been waiting for this. Of course they have, Namjoon growled. Because people love to watch gods fall. Taehyung said nothing. He walked past them both, heading for the exit, the weight of memory trailing behind him like a second skin. But Namjoon stopped him with one question. Do you want them to be right? Taehyung posed it. No, he whispered. But I'm not going to lie for the cameras anymore. That night, Taehyung didn't go home. He walked the streets of Seoul with a hoodie pulled low, headphones in, though no music played. He wandered past familiar places, the studio where they recorded Spring Day, the ramen shop where they used to eat at 3 a.m., the bench near Han River where Jungkook once cried after his first panic attack. He remembered everything, and it hurt. Not because it was gone, but because somewhere along the line, it had been rewritten. Filtered through interviews and press releases and marketing, their friendship had become a brand. Their pain, a campaign. He stopped outside the building of Hybe. The glass walls glowed, transparent but untouchable. Inside, the executives were probably still in damage control mode, probably already planning a redemption arc, a sit-down interview, maybe even tears on camera. Taehyung smiled without humor. The truth was, he had written that song. The one Jungkook made famous. It was a confession disguised as melody. A song about loneliness, about abandonment. He had shared it with Jungkook in trust. And Jungkook had... what? Claimed it? Protected it? Or just let the machine spin it into gold without resistance? He didn't know anymore. But one thing was clear now. Something between them had shattered, and the world was watching. Meanwhile, Jungkook sat alone in his apartment, lights off. The city spread below him like a constellation of guilt. He held the flash drive in his hand, the one Taehyung had given him 2 years ago. It still had the original demo. Taehyung's voice, raw and breaking, had cracked something open in him when he first heard it. He'd played it for their producer, just for feedback. But then things moved fast. Too fast. Suddenly, it was his. The label called it a collaboration. But Taehyung had never been credited. He had told himself Taehyung didn't care, that he didn't need the spotlight, that maybe it was a silent agreement between them, one friend supporting the other. Now he realized how wrong he'd been. He played the song again, Taehyung's voice filled the room. Low, vulnerable, haunting. Jungkook wept. In the coming days, the scandal would explode. The fandom would divide. Hidden emails would be leaked. Old videos dissected. Every glance, every word between them on past shows would be reinterpreted as foreshadowing of a hidden rift. In the coming days, the scandal would explode. The fandom would divide. Hidden emails would be leaked. Old videos dissected. Every glance, every word between them on past shows would be reinterpreted as foreshadowing of a hidden rift. But none of it would show what really mattered. The story of two brothers, bound by music, torn apart by silence. And somewhere in the dark, a deeper truth waited. One neither of them had dared to confront. Not yet. You read it, didn't you? Taehyung's hand froze on the doorknob of the old practice room, the one deep in the basement of Hybe that they used to sneak into after midnight when they weren't allowed to rehearse anymore. Jungkook's voice cut through the silence behind him. Low, tight, trembling. Taehyung didn't turn around. You weren't supposed to read it, Hung. He exhaled slowly, pushing the door open. Dust filtered through a shaft of morning light, catching on the old wooden floor. Mirrors cracked slightly in the corners. The piano in the back was still there, half covered in a plastic sheet like a corpse waiting for burial. I did read it, Taehyung said, stepping inside. And I have questions. Jungkook followed him in, closing the door behind them. The muffled city faded. All that remained was the echo of old songs and the weight of a decade of unspoken things. It wasn't about you, Jungkook said carefully. It was a letter to myself, a way to process everything that happened. Between us, the label, the pressure. You were never meant to see it. Taehyung turned now, eyes sharp. Then why was it in my coat pocket? Jungkook hesitated. Because I wanted you to find it. And then I changed my mind. But it was too late. Taehyung laughed bitterly. Typical. Always half a confession, half an escape. Jungkook flinched. You think I've been running? Do you have any idea what I've been carrying since that song dropped? Since the whole world bowed at my feet for something that wasn't mine alone? Taehyung stepped closer, inches between them now. Then why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you fix it? Because I was afraid, Jungkook snapped. Afraid that if I told the truth, I'd lose you. Lose the group. Lose everything we built. You did lose me, Taehyung whispered. Not because of the song, but because you didn't trust me enough to tell me the truth when it mattered. Jungkook's shoulders dropped. And what if I told you it wasn't just the song? Silence. What are you talking about? Taehyung asked, wary now. There was more, Jungkook said, stepping back. His voice lowered. Do you remember the 7 Pact? The contract we signed privately before the first world tour ended? Taehyung frowned. Of course I do. Jungkook pulled out his phone, opened a file, and handed it over. Taehyung stared at the screen. It was a scanned document familiar. 7 names, 7 signatures. A private agreement between all BTS members. Never to go solo until the group officially disbanded. Never to release solo material unless agreed upon by all. And then Taehyung's blood ran cold. There were 8 signatures on the scanned file. Who is this? He asked, pointing to the new one at the bottom. Small, corporate, cold. Hybe legal, Jungkook said. They added it after we signed. I didn't know until 2 years ago. And you didn't tell us? They threatened to cut me off if I did. Said if I opened my mouth, I'd breach my contract and lose everything. They told me to play along. Told me the others wouldn't care as long as the money came in. Taehyung stepped away, shaking his head. That's impossible. June would have known. Hobie. They knew eventually, Jungkook said. But by then it was too late. Everyone had solo projects queued up. We were all pretending not to see it. Taehyung sank onto the old studio couch, disbelief in his eyes. So it was all fake? The whole brotherhood? The reunion? No, Jungkook said firmly, kneeling in front of him. The brotherhood was real. That's what makes this worse. Taehyung stared at him, eyes glassy now. You let me believe you betrayed me, when really, the betrayal came from all sides. Jungkook nodded slowly. Because I was ashamed. And because it felt like I had betrayed you, even if they forced my hand. A long silence stretched between them. The old piano creaked in the background, shifting with age. I don't know what's real anymore, Taehyung murmured. Jungkook looked at him, then truly looked. Then let's find out together. Let's go back to the beginning. Taehyung lifted his gaze. You mean? We reopen the archives. Every demo, every lyric, every video. We find out who took what, who twisted what, and we expose them, even if it means burning down everything we built. Taehyung stood. His face was unreadable. You're not doing this out of guilt? No, Jungkook said. I'm doing it because I finally want to stop lying. To you, to myself. Taehyung studied him for a long moment, and then slowly he nodded. But before either of them could speak, the practice room door slammed open. A breathless staff member stood there, pale and shaking. They found something, she said, her voice barely audible. A hard drive, in Yoongi's old locker. It's got everything. Unreleased tracks, emails, voice memos. And? Jungkook asked, stepping forward. There's one file marked, "Do not open unless everything falls apart." Taehyung and Jungkook exchanged a glance. Looks like it's time, Taehyung said, his voice hoarse. Because everything already has. Neither of them noticed the security camera light blinking red in the corner of the ceiling, or the silent figure watching the feed in a dark room 3 floors above. Someone who didn't want the truth to come out. Someone who was ready to stop them, by any means necessary. Don't touch that drive. The voice came from behind them, cold and razor-sharp, cutting through the charged air like a blade. Jungkook spun around first, eyes narrowing as he recognized the figure in the doorway. It was Bang Seon-woo, the executive who had quietly risen through Hybe's ranks, the one always in the background, always observing, always smiling just a little too tightly. He wasn't smiling now. Taehyung stepped protectively in front of the staff member still holding the drive. Why? What's on it? That file is company property, Seon-woo said calmly, stepping into the room. Classified content. You two have no authorization to access it. It was in Yoongi's locker. Jungkook shot back. That makes it personal property. Seon-woo's eyes flashed. Not if it pertains to BTS intellectual property, and not if it was recorded while under contract. Taehyung walked toward him slowly, the room shrinking with every step. What are you afraid we'll find? I'm afraid you'll misunderstand. Try us. Seon-woo let out a breath. You want to burn everything down? Be my guest. But understand this, if you open that file, there's no going back. You won't just be ending your careers. You'll be implicating everyone, including the members who still trust you. Don't talk to me about trust, Taehyung said, voice low and venomous. You built a machine on our backs and called it a family. The drive sat on the desk now. Small, black, unassuming, like a bomb waiting to be triggered. You're both emotional, Seon-woo continued. You're tired, Hurt. You're not seeing clearly. This is just another bump in the road. We've handled worse. Let PR do their job, let the scandal die, and everything will settle. No, Jungkook said firmly. You don't get to decide what everything means anymore. Taehyung looked at him. For the first time in a long time, they were standing on the same side of the fire. Then he turned to the staff member. Give it to me. She hesitated, glancing nervously at Seon-woo, who now took a step forward. I'm warning you. No, Taehyung interrupted. We're warning you. If you don't want the world to know what's on this drive, maybe you shouldn't have lied to it. She handed over the drive. Seon-woo's jaw clenched. You'll regret this. Maybe, Jungkook said. But at least we'll know the truth. They left the room without another word. Hours later, they sat in Yoongi's old studio. The room hadn't been touched in over a year. Dust layered every surface, and the air smelled like old coffee and faded memories. It still felt like him, quiet, precise, uncompromising. Jungkook plugged in the drive. Files populated the screen. Demos, notes, video logs, voice memos. One folder stood out. Project, mask. Taehyung opened it. Inside were hundreds of documents, confidential agreements, unreleased footage, emails dating back to 2019, recordings of meetings, conversations they were never meant to hear. Then, one file at the bottom caught their eyes. Read this, when it's all gone, wave. Jungkook hovered over it. Play it, Taehyung said. Yoongi's voice filled the room. If you're hearing this, it means everything's falling apart. And I'm sorry. I tried to fix it before it got this far. But I was too late, or too scared. Or maybe I believed them when they said it would be fine. They started manipulating things after Love Yourself, Tear. Said the group had outgrown its image, that we needed a new direction. That solo stardom was the only way forward. I fought them. So did June. But the others, they were tired. And when they were promised creative freedom, control, money, they gave in. Not because they didn't care, because they didn't know what it would cost. Taehyung, Jungkook. I know you two probably hate each other by now. But please understand, the divide between you wasn't natural. It was orchestrated. They fed you both lies, gave Taehyung silence and gave Jungkook applause, played you against each other while the company cashed in. Don't let them win. Don't destroy each other. Burn the system, not the brotherhood. The recording ended. The silence that followed was suffocating. Taehyung sat frozen, fists clenched in his lap. Jungkook stared at the screen, tears threatening to fall. He knew, Jungkook whispered. He knew they were doing this to us. And he didn't tell us, Taehyung said bitterly. Why didn't he tell us? Because he thought he could protect us by staying quiet. Taehyung shook his head, standing, pacing. How many years did we waste hating each other over a lie? Jungkook stood too, voice rising. Don't turn this into more anger, Hyung. That's what they want. That's what they built, a perfect machine powered by our rage. Taehyung turned to him, eyes flashing. You still don't get it, do you? This wasn't just manipulation. It was theft of our voices, our choices, our lives. And now we take it back. Jungkook reached for his phone, started recording a video. Taehyung's eyes widened. What are you doing? Giving the world the truth. Taehyung hesitated, then nodded. They recorded the first 30 seconds. No music, no lights, just two broken brothers telling a story no one saw coming. They didn't prepare a script. They just spoke. About the contract, the silence, the sabotage, the betrayal, and the love that once held them together. The upload button blinked. They hovered over it, then pressed. The screen went black, but the world was about to explode. The video had only been online for 17 minutes. That's all it took. 17 minutes before the servers began to buckle. 17 minutes before the truth about BTS surged to #1 worldwide. 17 minutes before Hybe's legal team began calling everyone lawyers, damage control units, even government contacts. And 17 minutes before every fan forum on the planet detonated into chaos. Jungkook stared at the screen in disbelief. It's happening. Taehyung didn't move. He sat slumped on the studio couch, staring at his phone as message after message poured in. June, what did you two just do? Hoseok, is this real? Please tell me this isn't a joke. Jimin, they're coming for you. You need to get out of there. Now. But he didn't move. Not yet. He couldn't. The flood of reactions online was already a storm. Fans divided. Some calling them heroes, others calling them liars. Old videos resurfaced, dissected frame by frame. Proof threads sprouted like wildfire. Compilations of Taehyung looking distant in group videos. Jungkook's overcompensating laughter. Moments of stiffness mistaken for shyness now reinterpreted as bitterness. Jungkook closed the laptop and exhaled. We should leave the building. Where are we even supposed to go? Taehyung muttered, rubbing his temples. Somewhere they can't find us. At least not tonight. He glanced at the door. Locked. For now. Taehyung stood. You think they'll try to stop us? I don't think, Jungkook said. I know they will. They left the studio through the back stairs, slipping past security by disguising themselves under hoodies and masks. It wasn't the first time they'd snuck out of Hybe, but it was the first time it felt like an escape, not an adventure. By the time they reached Jungkook's car, Taehyung's phone buzzed again. Unknown number. He answered instinctively. You've made a mistake, the voice said. Male. Calm. Dangerous. Who is this? You've made enemies you can't see. Enemies who know how to bury people quietly. Do you understand? Taehyung's voice didn't waver. If you're trying to scare me, you'll need to try harder. No, the voice said. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to give you one last chance to walk away. This is your only warning. Delete the video, disappear for a few months, and we'll forget this ever happened. And if we don't? The call ended. Taehyung stared at the phone, then looked at Jungkook. We're not going back. They drove through the night, past the city, past the neon chaos of Seoul, into the mountains, where the sky was clearer and the silence louder. Jungkook's family owned a small cabin, rarely used, forgotten by the company, untraceable by GPS. Inside, the world felt still for the first time in days, but peace was a lie. The cabin's power was weak. Their phones were overheating. Notifications wouldn't stop. Their names were trending alongside words like lawsuit, betrayal, implosion, and exile. But beneath it all, buried in the noise, were whispers. Whispers from former staff members. Anonymous messages. I knew something was wrong after 2021. I have screenshots. I can prove the songwriting credits were faked. They silenced Yoongi too. He tried to stop them. Jungkook was staring at one message in particular. Sent by a former assistant producer. There's a hidden folder on the drive Yoongi left. You didn't open the right one. He looked up at Taehyung, who had gone eerily still. What? Play the last recording again, Taehyung said. Yoongi's voice note. Jungkook did. Only this time, they heard something at the very end they hadn't noticed before. A whisper. Soft. Almost unintelligible. But there. Jungkook enhanced the volume. If something happens to me, look in the folder named Swan Song. They'll never think to check there. Taehyung's face drained of color. He knew. Jungkook's fingers flew across the keyboard, digging through hidden subdirectories on the drive. There it was. Swan. Song. Inside were only 3 files. 1 video, 1 PDF, 1 audio recording. He clicked the video first. A secret recording. From a board meeting. Executives sitting around a polished table. A presentation being given by Seon-woo himself. The plan is simple, he was saying. Split 'em up. Feed solo dreams, feed the fans' narratives, create small conflicts, enough to justify division. They'll fight a little, but not enough to destroy anything. Then we reshape the brand. Jungkook becomes the global centerpiece. Taehyung becomes the mysterious artist. Jimin, the heart. RM, the thinker. Hoseok, the bridge. Yoongi, the architect. Jin. Well, by then he'll be out of the picture. A few chuckles around the table. Jungkook was frozen. Taehyung was shaking. Pause it, Taehyung said. Jungkook did. And then Taehyung punched the wall so hard his knuckles split open. They assigned us roles like we were chess pieces, he said through clenched teeth. The audio file was next. A conversation between Yoongi and an unknown female voice, likely someone on the inside. They'll never let you release this, Yoongi. You'll get blacklisted. Then let them blacklist me. Why do you care so much? Because they're not just my group. They're my brothers. Taehyung covered his face with both hands. He was crying now, silently. Not because of betrayal, but because of the love Yoongi had tried so hard to protect, even when they were all blind to it. Jungkook gently touched his arm. He left this for us. He trusted us to finish what he started. Taehyung nodded slowly. The PDF file contained a list of names. People inside the company who had participated in the manipulation. Some were still there. Some had resigned years ago. But the biggest shock was at the very bottom. Jin. Taehyung whispered the name like a ghost. No, Jungkook said immediately. No way. Hyung would never. But the document didn't lie. There was an internal email thread, copied with receipts. Jin had been consulted during the early planning stages of the solo restructure plan. He hadn't responded to most emails, but in one, short and chilling, he had written, "If this is what it takes to survive the next decade, do it. Just keep the group's name intact." Taehyung couldn't breathe. He collapsed into the chair, staring at the screen as if trying to wake up from a nightmare that had outlived its welcome. Jungkook crouched in front of him, voice breaking. "Do we release this?" Taehyung looked at him, jaw tight, eyes burning. "Not yet." "Why?" "Because once this goes out, there's no saving anyone." Jungkook nodded slowly. Outside, the first rays of morning crept over the trees. The world was waking up again, unaware that everything was about to change. The truth was no longer a weapon. It was a reckoning. And they were just getting started. The knock came at 4:17 a.m. 3 slow, deliberate taps against the wooden cabin door. Not loud, not urgent, just enough to pierce the silence and make both Taehyung and Jungkook freeze in place. Neither of them spoke. They exchanged a glance, tension snapping like a live wire between them. Another knock, then a voice. calm, familiar, deep. It's me! Taehyung stood slowly. His hands trembled. Jungkook's voice was barely a whisper. It can't be. Taehyung walked toward the door like a man approaching a grave. When he opened it, Jin stood there, drenched in rain. No coat, no smile, just exhaustion, and something else behind his eyes. Something hollow. Can I come in? He asked. Jungkook stepped into view behind Taehyung. He didn't say anything, but his face said it all: shock, suspicion, and disbelief. Taehyung stepped aside wordlessly. Jin entered, removed his shoes like muscle memory. The rain dripped from his sleeves. He looked around the room, saw the open laptop, the files on the screen, the wreckage of truth scattered across every surface. So, you found it. Taehyung's voice was sharp. You should be somewhere else, Hyung. Somewhere less incriminating. Jin let out a bitter laugh and sat down on the nearest chair. You think I came here to cover my ass? Didn't you? Jungkook asked, arms crossed, eyes cold. We saw your name. We read your words. Do it. Just keep the group's name intact. That came from you. Jin nodded slowly. I know. Taehyung's fists clenched. Why? Jin looked up at him, and for the first time in years, he didn't look like Worldwide Handsome or the guy who joked his way through every press conference. He looked like Kim Seokjin, the eldest brother who once carried 6 dreams on his shoulders and never complained. Because I thought I was protecting all of you, Jin said. By betraying us, Jungkook snapped. No, by sacrificing myself. Taehyung shook his head. That's not what it looks like. Jin's eyes glistened. It never does, because real betrayal isn't dramatic. It's silent. It hides in the things you don't say. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small voice recorder, placed it on the table. This is from the original board meeting, the one none of us were supposed to know about, the one where they decided who would rise and who would fade. I was the only one invited. Not because I was the oldest, but because they knew I wouldn't fight them. Then why are you giving this to us now? Taehyung asked. Because I made a deal back then, Jin said quietly. I agreed to cooperate, to go along with the restructure, to keep the peace only if they promised to leave you both out of it. Jungkook's jaw dropped. What? They wanted to make Jungkook the solo face from the beginning, Jin continued. But they wanted to cut Taehyung out entirely. Said he was too unpredictable, too artistic, too emotional. They wanted a clean brand. I told them no. I said, if you want me, Taehyung stays. Untouched. Taehyung stared at him. You protected me. I tried to. Jin laughed bitterly again. But nothing ever goes to plan. They used you anyway. Just not the way I thought. I didn't see it coming. The way they'd turn you against each other. The way they'd use Jungkook's fame as a weapon. Jungkook's voice was tight. Then why didn't you tell us? Because I thought I could fix it quietly. Because I was a coward. Because the minute I saw what they were doing, I was already too deep. Taehyung took a step forward. So what now? You think showing up here makes you one of the good guys? No, Jin said. I just came to give you this. To say I'm sorry. And to ask you. To be careful. Jungkook's eyes narrowed. Careful of what? Jin leaned forward, his expression dark. You think releasing that file ended the game? It started it. Hybe has layers you haven't even touched. There are files you'll never find. People you'll never name. If you go public with everything, they'll come after you and not with lawsuits. With things that can't be scrubbed from the internet. Taehyung stared at him, disbelieving. What are you saying? I'm saying, Jin said, voice breaking. They'll make you look insane. Or criminal. Or dead. The word hung in the air like smoke. Then Jin stood. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I just want you to know. I didn't sell you out. I tried to hold the storm back. But I'm not Yoongi. I wasn't strong enough. He headed for the door. Haeung, Jungkook said suddenly. Jin paused. If we keep going, if we burn it all, what happens to the others? Jimin? Hobi? Namjoon? Jin didn't turn around. They'll have to choose. Between the myth and the truth, like all of us. He opened the door and stepped into the rain. Taehyung stood in the quiet after, heart pounding. You believe him? He asked. I don't know, Jungkook said. But I believe Yoongi, and Yoongi left us the truth. They turned back to the laptop. The messages kept flooding in. But one caught Taehyung's eye. A direct message from a private account. No name, No photo. There's a video you haven't seen. Meet me tomorrow, alone. 10 a.m. Dongdaemun. Basement level 3. Come without Jungkook. Attached. One blurry frame. Yoongi. Alive. Not a video. A photo. Taken 2 days ago. Taehyung's hand went numb. He looked at Jungkook. Yoongi's alive. Jungkook's face went pale. What? I have to go tomorrow. Alone. You're not going anywhere alone. I have to. They stared at each other. 1,000 questions unspoken. Outside, the rain turned violent. And somewhere, in a basement far beneath the city, someone was waiting. With answers. Or a trap. Or both. The city felt different that morning, colder, even though the sun had risen. Taehyung walked through the tight alleys of Dongdaemun with his cap low and his heart hammering in his chest. Every shadow seemed to watch him. Every footstep behind him, every parked van, every flicker of a surveillance camera, it all felt like it was holding its breath, waiting for something to snap. He didn't tell Jungkook where he was really going. Not exactly. He had just left a message and locked his phone in the glove compartment of a rental car 3 blocks away. He needed to do this alone. The entrance to the location was hidden behind a locked fire escape in a nearly abandoned shopping mall. He found it after 20 minutes of pretending to be lost. 3 levels down, fluorescent lights flickering above cracked tile floors. No music, no advertisements. Just the hum of machines behind metal walls. When he finally reached basement level 3, the hallway was silent. There were no signs, no people, just one black door with a keypad. And then, it opened. A woman in a black hoodie stepped out. Pale, calm, almost too calm. "You're late," she said. "I don't know you," Taehyung replied flatly. "But I know you," she said. "And I know why you're here." She stepped aside. He followed her inside. The room was not what he expected. It wasn't a trap. Not immediately. It looked like a data lab, multiple screens on the walls, hard drives stacked like books, audio equipment, security feeds. Everything screamed off-grid. This was not Hybe's space, but whoever built it knew how to trace them. And then, on the screen across the room, Yoongi's face appeared. Not a photo, not a recording. A live feed. Taehyung. His voice was soft, cracked, real. Taehyung couldn't move for a moment. His breath caught in his throat. "Hyung?" he whispered. Yoongi was in a small room, some kind of safe house. He looked thinner. There was a bruise on his left cheekbone, a healing cut on his neck. His eyes, though, those hadn't changed. "You're alive," Taehyung said, voice breaking. "Barely," Yoongi replied with a faint smirk. "I've been off-grid for 6 months. They think I'm dead. Let's not change that." Taehyung stepped closer to the screen. "Why didn't you come back? Why did you leave us in the dark?" "Because the moment I tried to blow the whistle, they came for me," Yoongi said. "I got a tip. I ran. That file I left you, Swan Song, that was my insurance policy. If I didn't make it back, it would speak for me." "It did," Taehyung whispered. "It is." Yoongi's expression hardened. "Then, you need to know the rest." The woman who let Taehyung in turned on another monitor. A video began to play. It was footage from a hidden camera dated 1.5 years ago. A secret meeting between 2 Hybe executives. One of them was Seon-woo. The other Taehyung recognized only from old press conferences. "We'll give Jungkook 2 tracks from Taehyung's unreleased EP," Seon-woo was saying. "Rename the files. New metadata. Let the fans assume it's all Jungkook. The kid's a star. We just need to maintain the illusion." "And Taehyung?" the other exec asked. "He'll never know. And if he finds out, well, we've got leverage." The clip cut off. Taehyung's knees nearly buckled. "They took my music. Lied. Framed it. I tried to stop it," Yoongi said. "But every time I spoke up, they silenced me. Moved meetings without telling me. Replaced files. When I finally confronted them, they said I'd breached NDA. Then, I got followed. My apartment got broken into. I had to disappear." Taehyung clenched his fists. "They turned me and Jungkook into puppets, into enemies." "That was the plan," Yoongi said. "Divide and dominate." Taehyung looked up at the screen again. "Then help me burn them. Help us." Yoongi leaned in. "I've been building something for months. This isn't just about Hybe anymore. It goes deeper: affiliates, sponsors, government ties. I have a master file. Everything. If we leak it, it won't just collapse the company. It could take down half the industry. Taehyung blinked. And the others? Jimin, Hobi, June? They don't know. Not the whole picture. They've seen parts, but they've also been shielded. By you. By me. Taehyung's throat closed up. I don't want to destroy BTS, he said. I want to save what's left. Yoongi's voice softened. Then you need to make a choice. Either release the final file, or use it to negotiate from power. If we go public, there's no turning back. But if we use it right, we could rewrite the whole damn system. Taehyung nodded slowly. I need to talk to Jungkook. Yoongi smiled faintly. Good. Because he's not who you think he is anymore. Taehyung frowned. What do you mean? Yoongi hesitated. You need to go back now. Check on him. Something's coming. What? But Yoongi had already gone dark. The screen shut off. The woman handed Taehyung a flash drive. That's the rest of it. Hide it. If they find it on you, you won't make it back. Taehyung took it with shaking fingers. He left the building without looking back. By the time he returned to the cabin, night had fallen, and the door was wide open. He stepped inside, cautiously, calling out. Jungkook? No answer. The laptop was gone. Papers were scattered. Drawers pulled open. Blood on the floor. A trail of it. Taehyung's heart stopped. Then his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He's with us now. If you want to see him again, bring the file. Attached. A video. Jungkook, unconscious. Tied to a chair. A bruise forming on his jaw. Someone's hand gripping his hair, forcing his head up. Taehyung stared at the screen and screamed, not in fear, in rage. They took his brother. To my brothers Jungkook, Taehyung, Yoongi, June, Hobi, Jimin. I loved you more than anything, and that love is what I sold in exchange for your survival. But if this file is ever played, then burn it all. Burn it down, not for revenge, for cleansing. Namjoon closed the laptop. His face was unreadable. Taehyung's voice broke. Where is he? No one knows, Namjoon said. He's disappeared, left the country, probably under a different name. But I think he's watching. Jungkook stood up. He swayed a little, but didn't fall. Then let's finish what he started. They made a plan that night. Not just to leak the remaining files, but to stage their own press conference. No managers, no script, no corporate filtration. They'd stand in front of the cameras as Kim Taehyung and Jeon Jungkook. Not as BTS, not as idols, not as legends, but as men. Flawed, betrayed, awake. But before they could even book the venue, the unexpected happened. A new video dropped online. Anonymous upload. Grainy footage, but unmistakable. Jimin, sitting at a table, pale, shaking, eyes red. I can't live with the silence anymore, he said. They told me if I spoke, they'd ruin my family. That they had footage of things that never even happened. They gaslit me so hard I forgot what I'd written, what I'd said, what I felt. But when I saw what Taehyung and Jungkook did, I realized something. Maybe the only way to protect what we love is to destroy what protects them. So here's my truth. He began naming names. Executives, handlers, sponsors, the people behind the curtain who had orchestrated the narrative, blackmailed the members, and built a billion-dollar empire on silence and sacrifice. It was raw, unedited, dangerous, and it went viral instantly. Taehyung watched it unfold with tears in his eyes. He was so quiet, he whispered. Always so quiet. Not anymore, Namjoon said. None of us are. That night, they got the final message from Yoongi. It was an encrypted link. A private livestream. One location, one night. No press. Just the members. All 7. If they came, everything would change. Again. If they didn't, the ghost of what they were would haunt the world forever. And so, under the cover of darkness, they prepared to meet. One last time. 7 souls. One truth. No more lies. The warehouse was quiet. Not the eerie kind of quiet, but the sacred kind, the stillness of a moment before everything changes, the pause before the last note in a song that once saved lives. The echo of fate. 7 chairs were arranged in a circle beneath a single hanging light. Dust catching in its glow like ash suspended in time. Taehyung stood by the doorway, hand tight around the strap of his bag, the flash drive digging into his palm through the canvas. Jungkook beside him, quiet but alert, his bruises still raw, his voice not quite recovered. Behind them, Namjoon exhaled long and low. They weren't alone. Already sitting inside the circle was Hoseok. He didn't smile this time. His expression was unreadable, something between heartbreak and resignation. He gave them a single nod. Next to him, Jimin. His eyes were bloodshot from crying, but his chin was high. No more hiding, no more pretending. And then, stepping in from the far side, came Yoongi. Alive, real, tired. He said nothing, just looked at Taehyung, then Jungkook, and gave them a long, slow nod, like a soldier returning from a war only he understood. 6 of them. They waited. The minutes dragged. Then, at exactly 11 p.m., the door creaked open one last time. Jin stepped inside. A hood covered his head. His steps were hesitant, but his presence undeniable. The room breathed, and the 7 of them sat. For the first time in years, the entire group was in one place. Not for a shoot, not for a contract, not for a performance, just this. Whatever this was. Namjoon broke the silence. So, what are we going to do? No one answered. Yoongi finally leaned forward. We tell the truth. All of it. Tonight. Just us. 1 camera, 1 feed, no edits, no scripts, 7 people, 7 voices, 1 hour. That's all. Jimin looked down. They'll come after us. They already are, Jungkook said quietly. Taehyung's voice was low, steady. Then we give them something they can't erase. Jin shifted in his seat. You think people want the truth? They want the fantasy. They want to believe we were perfect. Namjoon looked at him. Then let them see the cost of that fantasy. Hoseok finally spoke. And what happens after? What happens to us? Our families? Our lives? Yoongi's voice cracked. I don't know. They sat in silence again. Then Jungkook stood. He walked to the camera mounted on a tripod at the center of the circle. He pressed record, and then he sat down again. No one moved. The red light blinked. Live. Jungkook spoke first. My name is Jungkook. You know me as the youngest, the golden maknae, the center of the stage. But you don't know the nights I cried because I didn't know who I was without the music they handed me. You don't know what it's like to be praised for songs I didn't write, ideas I didn't own, a voice they molded to fit a dream that wasn't mine. He paused, looked into the lens. I was used, we all were, and I let it happen. Then Taehyung leaned forward. I'm Kim Taehyung, and I wrote a song that saved me. That told my truth, and I was told it wasn't marketable, that it didn't fit the image, so they gave it to Jungkook. I don't blame him, not anymore, but they made me disappear from my own melody, and for years, I questioned if my voice was even mine. He looked around, met each of their eyes. I'm not disappearing anymore. Yoongi spoke next. I tried to stop it. From the inside. I thought I was smarter than them. I left clues. I hid files. I ran when they came for me. But I was too late. And for that, I'm sorry. Not to the company. To you. All of you. I should have said more. I should have screamed. His voice broke, but he didn't stop. I won't be silent again. Namjoon looked at the floor before lifting his head. I'm Kim Namjoon. I was the leader, the one who was supposed to keep us together. I signed things I didn't read. I agreed to things I didn't understand. I watched the company turn art into currency and said nothing because I was afraid if I broke the system, it would break us. He let the silence sit. It broke us anyway. Hoseok took a deep breath. I'm Young Hoseok. I've always been the sunshine, the hope. But some nights I came home from the studio and stared at myself in the mirror, wondering if my smile was just another mask. I let them paint me into a color I didn't choose, but I wore it, and now I take it off. Jimin's voice shook. I'm Park Jimin. And I was told I was fragile, that I should be grateful for the screen time, that my softness was a weakness, and that if I ever cried on camera again, they'd cut my parts. So I learned to hide it, until I forgot how not to. He looked straight at the camera. I'm done hiding. Then finally, Jin. He removed his hood slowly. His voice was quiet. I'm Kim Seokjin, and I was the first to break. I agreed to things I shouldn't have. I tried to bargain with people who don't understand loyalty. I told myself I was protecting everyone, but I was just scared. He looked at them, really looked. I'm sorry. I betrayed the promise we made, but I'm here now, and I'll stay if you'll let me. Taehyung didn't speak. He reached over and took Jin's hand. No words, just forgiveness. And then the camera ran for an hour. 7 men, 7 truths, no edits. When it ended, they didn't say goodbye. They just sat there, together, whole, at last. The feed ended. The world didn't stop, but it changed. Overnight, fans cried and fought and healed. Labels panicked. Artists began speaking out. A storm swept the industry. Not of scandal, but of awakening. Taehyung stared at the sunrise the next morning, his hand brushing against Jungkook's shoulder. Do you think we'll ever be BTS again? He asked softly. Jungkook smiled, eyes on the horizon. No, he said. I think we'll be something even more real. And in the light of the new day, with their scars still fresh and their names still whispered across the globe, they stood not as idols, but as men who told the truth and survived it. It was supposed to be over. They had done it. Faced the cameras, bared their truths, let the world into the wound they'd hidden for too long. And the world had responded. Not with the destruction they'd feared, but with fire and reverence. Support poured in like rain on a city starved of truth, fans in every time zone organizing, speaking, demanding accountability from the industry that had built and buried their idols. But peace never comes clean. Not when power is still cornered. Namjoon stood by the hotel window, phone pressed to his ear, jaw tight. They're freezing our accounts, he said, turning to the others in the suite. Not just ours, our families, parents, siblings. They're targeting bank links, housing records, even medical files. They're trying to make it personal. Let them, Yoongi said, seated in the corner, his hoodie pulled over his head. They're running out of moves. This is panic. It means we hit them where it hurts. They're not just panicking, Taehyung said from the couch. He was barefoot, legs pulled under him, laptop balanced on his thighs. They're retaliating, quietly. They're releasing old rehearsal footage cut to look like we were ungrateful. Painting me as jealous. Jimin is unstable. Jungkook is arrogant. You is manipulative. Jimin lifted his eyes from his tea. They're weaponizing our worst moments. They've always had that footage, Jungkook muttered, pacing. Why now? Because now, Jin said grimly, entering the room with a folder of documents. They need to make us villains before someone else decides we're prophets. He tossed the folder on the table. What is it? Hosok asked. Jin hesitated. Evidence, he said. Proof that Hybe's new leadership team is working with a PR firm tied to several government-backed corporate giants. This isn't just about us anymore. Taehyung opened the folder. Internal memos. Names of artists being groomed to replace them. Documents referencing a project called Phoenix. They're trying to erase us, he whispered. Rebuild the brand from scratch. Exactly, Jin said. New boys. New stories. Same machine. Yoongi's voice was razor sharp. They want the BTS effect without the actual BTS. Then let's give them something they can't replicate, Namjoon said. A final performance. Everyone went still. Jimin's eyes widened. You're not serious. A show, Namjoon continued, heart racing. Not for profit, not for charts, for truth. One night, one stage, our music, our voices. The way it was before they owned us. We'll never get clearance, Jungkook said. Venues are all controlled by networks tied to the label. Taehyung looked up. Then we go underground. Jin raised an eyebrow. You want to put on an illegal concert? Not illegal, Taehyung said. Just unsanctioned. Yoongi leaned forward. I know a place. Abandoned train station on the outskirts of Daegu. Used to be a rave hub before the crackdowns. If we retrofit it with lights and sound, keep it quiet until day of, we could pull it off. Namjoon's eyes burned. And we live stream it. One night, one performance, one last stand. Hoseok nodded slowly. One more time. Together. They all looked at each other. And for the first time since the fall, they felt like 7 again. But the moment didn't last. Jungkook's phone buzzed. He answered it instinctively. The blood drained from his face. What is it? Taehyung asked, already moving toward him. Jungkook held the phone out, screen trembling in his hand. A video was playing. His mother, sitting in her kitchen, crying. A man off screen speaking calmly. Tell your son to stay quiet, Or we release the footage. Taehyung grabbed the phone. Who sent this? No number. Jungkook said, voice barely a whisper. Encrypted file. No metadata. Hoseok stood up. We need security. Now. Jin paced. They're escalating. They won't touch us directly. Not yet. But they'll pressure everyone around us. Families. Friends. Namjoon's fists clenched. They want fear. Jungkook sat down, burying his face in his hands. I don't care what they do to me, he whispered. But her? She's never been part of this. She believed everything was real. She lived through my career like it was her dream too. She doesn't deserve this. Taehyung sat beside him. Then we don't back down. We finish this. And we do it for everyone they've hurt along the way. Even if it costs us everything? Jimin asked softly. Especially then, Yoongi said. The next 72 hours were a storm of planning. Yoongi reached out to old contacts. Namjoon handled media channels. Jimin and Hoseok worked choreography. Taehyung designed visuals. Jungkook rehearsed vocals until his throat gave out. They slept on floors, ate whatever was nearby, laughed at things that didn't deserve laughter, broke down behind soundproof walls. But through it all, they moved as one. The train station was transformed. Old tracks replaced with light rigs. Cracked concrete covered in tarps and LED strips. Sound systems smuggled in piece by piece. The stage was small, but it was real, and the guest list was global. No tickets, no seating, just a live feed and a countdown. 7 days until the final performance. This time, no masks. The message was posted without promotion, and it spread like wildfire. The fandom erupted. Some called it rebellion, some called it redemption. But everyone was watching, and Hybe went silent again. Too quiet. Until the day before the show, when a message appeared on every social platform, from every major account BTS had ever owned. They are not BTS. The group you loved is gone. Protect the legacy. Don't be fooled. Taehyung read it aloud as they stood behind the curtain, preparing for the dress rehearsal. Jungkook's jaw tightened. They're trying to divide the fans. They're not just attacking us, Jimin whispered. They're erasing us. Namjoon stepped between them. Then tomorrow we remind the world who we are. Not the brand, not the illusion, but the truth. The lights dimmed. The sound engineer counted them down. Yoongi whispered, You boys ready? Taehyung closed his eyes. Then opened them. Steel. Fire. Memory. Let's end it the way we began, he said. Together. And when the curtain lifted, the world held its breath. 7 silhouettes in the dark. A single beat pulsing like a heartbeat. And then, music. Not just a song. A revolution. The sound was raw, gritty, unfiltered. Nothing like the overproduced perfection they had once been known for. It wasn't just a performance, it was a reckoning. The 7 of them stood shoulder to shoulder on the bare-bones stage beneath the gutted ceiling of an abandoned train station. Lights casting long, ghost-like shadows across cracked tiles and graffiti-stained walls. There were no backup dancers, no pyrotechnics, no flashy transitions. Just music, just pain, just truth. The live stream began with Yoongi's voice. Not rapping, just speaking, over a slow, looping beat that echoed like a ticking clock. This isn't a comeback. This is a confession. 7 boys, 1 empire, built on blood, love, silence. And now we speak. Then the first beat dropped, and the floodgates opened. Taehyung's voice was the first to rise. Low, aching, stripped of polish. He sang of the night he watched his song climb the charts under another name, of staring into a crowd that didn't know the words were his. His voice cracked not because he couldn't hit the note, but because it wasn't meant to be perfect anymore. Jungkook followed, stepping forward with eyes burning. I wore the crown, but never knew the weight. His hands trembled as he pulled off his earpiece mid-verse and tossed it to the floor. The audience wasn't there in person, but millions watched from around the globe. Some cried. Some raged. Some still doubted. They didn't care anymore. Jimin danced like he was breaking. Every movement a cry. He didn't lip-sync. He didn't even follow the melody exactly. He just moved. Freer than he'd ever been. Yoongi's verse cut like broken glass. His words weren't even fully censored. Just raw stream of consciousness. Accusations wrapped in rhymes. Names weren't mentioned, but the references were too specific to ignore. Executives, contracts, threats, blackmail. They said love myself, then sold my pieces. Namjoon stood at center stage for the next track. The lyrics were journal entries, regrets, anger, apologies. But he never asked to be forgiven, he only asked to be understood. Jin's voice surprised everyone. He was never the powerhouse vocalist. But tonight, his voice had weight. He didn't try to hide the quiver in his throat or the heaviness in his heart. When he sang his solo verse 1 they'd written together just the night before, it felt like a goodbye letter. I broke the glass to save you all, and bled alone in the silence. Hoseok lit the fuse in the final third. The choreography was wild, unscripted, more protest than performance. He ripped off his jacket mid-dance and spray-painted the stage floor. Not your product. The camera panned to the words. Millions of screenshots, millions of retweets. The message couldn't be clearer. They didn't belong to anyone anymore. The final song was an unreleased track one no one had ever heard. Yoongi had written it during the darkest days of his disappearance. Taehyung and Jungkook had finished it together. They all had added lines. A shared heartbeat. The chorus was simple. We were never 7 gods. Just 7 boys who burned too bright. Now we rise not from ashes, but from truth. As the last note rang out, the feed did not cut to black. Instead, the camera lingered on their faces. Exhausted. Tear-streaked. Proud. Taehyung stepped forward, mic still in his hand, breathing hard. He looked directly into the lens. If you ever loved us, he said, voice hoarse but steady, then love this. The truth. The mess. The real. Because this is all we ever were, and it's all we ever had. Jungkook stepped beside him. We're not asking you to pick sides, he added. We're asking you to open your eyes. We were idols, yes, but behind that, we were sons, brothers, humans. We bled for this, and we still are. Namjoon placed a hand on both their shoulders. This is the last time we stand here as BTS. The air went dead. Not silence. Shock. A million hearts stopped at once. Jin walked forward next. We don't disband. We evolve. We survive. But the brand, the name they turned into a prison, that's done. We are not returning to the cage they built with our smiles. Jimin nodded. We're free now. Hoseok raised his hand, fingers trembling. And we'll still sing, still create, but not under their thumb, not under their rules. Yoongi's voice came last, steady like the ground beneath them. Let the phoenix burn. We'll build something better from the bones. They stood in a line. 7. Not perfect, but whole. The camera held for a moment longer, then faded to black. The world didn't end, but it trembled. The backlash came instantly. HYBE filed emergency injunctions. Accusations of breach, slander, defamation, but the damage was irreversible. The live stream had been copied, mirrored, and saved by thousands. The words had been heard. The storm was here, but this time, the storm was theirs. And as dawn broke over Seoul, 7 phones lit up at once. An anonymous number. One message. The industry will come for you. Be ready. This was only the first battle. Taehyung stared at it and smiled. Because for the first time in years, he wasn't afraid. The air in the room felt heavy, thicker than smoke, denser than fear. They'd been silent for an hour. No music. No talking. Just 7 men in a locked apartment, staring at a wall of glowing screens showing live news footage, real-time stock crashes, government press conferences, trending hashtags, and one chilling phrase crawling across the ticker on every major Korean network. BTS under criminal investigation for unlawful leaks and national security threats. Jin stood first. They're trying to turn us into traitors, he muttered. Jimin looked up slowly. National security? Namjoon rubbed his temple like he was trying to erase the headline from his brain. They're linking us to whistleblower laws, saying the information we leaked about corporate government ties violated national interest. That's not national interest, Yoongi snapped. That's corporate corruption. Doesn't matter, Jungkook said, leaning against the window, pale and sleepless. They're not looking for truth. They're trying to bury it in noise. Taehyung hadn't moved since the news broke. He sat cross-legged on the floor, phone in hand, scrolling silently through hundreds of death threats, fan meltdowns, conspiracy theories, and worse betrayals. HYBE just published a statement, he said finally. eyes still locked on the screen. They've cut all ties with us, revoked our trademarks, frozen our individual licenses. They're demanding restitution. Hoseok let out a low, disbelieving laugh. Restitution? For what? Our souls? They want everything, Taehyung replied flatly. They want to own our past, silence our present, and kill any chance at a future. And if we fight back? Jungkook asked, tone sharp. Namjoon looked him dead in the eyes. Then we go to war, Yoongi stood. We already are. The door buzzed. Everyone froze. Jin grabbed the curtain and peeked through a slit. Black vans, men in suits. They found us. Go, Yoongi barked. Roof exit. I'll buy time. No, Jungkook snapped. We're not leaving anyone behind. You don't have a choice. Stop it, Taehyung interrupted, standing. They want us scared. They want us separated. No one's running. The buzzer screamed again. Then a voice over the intercom. You have 10 minutes to comply. After that, force will be authorized. Namjoon turned to Jin. We need the press. Now. Jin pulled out his burner phone and dialed. I've got a direct line to Reuters and BBC. I can get us 5 minutes of airtime before they cut the feed. They'll intercept it, Jimin said. Let them try, Jin answered. Yoongi plugged in a hard drive to the last working laptop. I've been saving something for this moment. Final evidence dump. Emails. Audios. A secret recording from a private meeting between high board members and government liaisons, including the plan to frame us if we didn't comply. Taehyung looked at him, stunned. Why didn't you show us this earlier? Because it was too dangerous, Yoongi replied. But now, it's the only card we have left. Jungkook walked over, placed his hand on the laptop. You release that. They won't just come for us, he said. They'll come for our families, the people who helped us. Everyone we've ever known. Yoongi stared at the screen. Then let them. This has to end. The apartment buzzed again. A third time. Then the power went out. The apartment plunged into darkness. Emergency lights flickering to life seconds later. They've cut the grid, Hoseok said. Which means they're not coming to arrest us. Taehyung's stomach dropped. They're coming to erase us. Namjoon moved quickly, grabbing the hard drive and shoving it into a fireproof backpack. We need to split up. 3 teams. Drop the files in separate places. 3 different cities. Upload simultaneously. If one of us gets caught... No, Taehyung interrupted. We don't split. We stream. Live? Jimin asked. They can kill a feed. But if we all go live from 7 different phones, if we speak while uploading, if our faces are tied to the truth in real time, they can't stop it. They'll try, Jin warned. They'll fail, Yoongi said. Taehyung pulled out his phone. Logged in. No signal. They're jamming us. We've got one option left, Jungkook said, suddenly remembering. My old apartment. Studio I built underground. Hardwired, off-grid, not traceable. We can broadcast from there. Namjoon grabbed the backpack. Then we move. Now. They fled down the stairwell, hearts pounding, breath ragged, adrenaline firing like gunshots in their veins. They didn't look back. Jungkook's apartment was 3 blocks away, but it might as well have been 100 miles, with the sirens closing in. By the time they reached the rusted metal doors of the underground studio, they were soaked in sweat, lungs burning. Jungkook punched in the code. It opened. Inside was darkness, then light. The old studio hadn't changed. Dusty, cramped, covered in posters of the past. But the rig was there. Powerful, private, ready. Yoongi connected the hard drive. Jimin connected the audio feed. Taehyung launched a stream through a masked site. Namjoon stepped in front of the camera and spoke. To whoever is watching this, they are trying to erase us. Not just our music, our names, our voices, but our existence. And we won't let them. Jin followed. They say we're criminals, that we betrayed our country, but the only thing we betrayed was a lie. Hoseok's voice trembled. We gave them everything, our youth, our health, our souls, and they still wanted more. Jimin wiped tears from his cheeks. We're not victims, we're survivors, but only because we fought. Yoongi pulled out a small recording device and played the secret audio. The voices were clear. Executives, ministers, planning the takedown, planning their erasure. Taehyung stepped into frame. He looked like he hadn't slept in days, but his eyes burned. This isn't about music anymore. It's about power. About what happens when truth threatens profit. About what they do to people who stop smiling on command. Jungkook's voice was the last. This will probably be the last time you see us live, but it won't be the last time you hear us. Because even if they shut this down, someone will pick it up. Someone will carry it forward. The upload bar hit 92%, then 95%, then 98%. The building shook. A loud crash. They found us, Yoongi said. Jungkook grabbed the mic. Say it, he told Taehyung. Taehyung didn't hesitate. BTS was never the company. It was us. 7 names, 7 hearts, 7 truths. And now, upload. 100%. Now we are free. The feed went black. The door burst open. Armed men stormed the room. And the world erupted. Because the truth had escaped. And nothing could ever silence it again.